simplify, implementing a product information management system, or PIM, is a crucial step for companies that care about efficient product data management. However, the implementation process itself, including the analytical phase and data modeling, can be quite a challenge. That's why it's important to be aware of the mistakes that can be made during the implementation of a PIM system and how to avoid them, which I will try to explain in today's episode. If you haven't had a chance to see our previous episodes from the PIM Academy, which introduce you to the world of the system, I encourage you to catch up. In the meantime, let's get started. The first common mistake is not appointing a product owner for the system or giving them insufficient authority within the organization to make decisions. When planning the implementation of a PIM system, companies often appoint an entire team or committee to manage the project, or involve directors in meetings, directors who already have plenty of other ongoing responsibilities. However, the implementation should ideally be coordinated by a single, dedicated person who can fully commit to the entire process and meticulously oversee its progress, schedule, budget, and requirements. I don't mean placing the entire burden of making all decisions regarding the PIM system implementation on just one person. However, it is important that the product owner has the space to consult some matters with the main decision makers, while being able to make some decisions, especially the minor, day-to-day ones, independently, so that the implementation process runs smoothly. The product owner is the main link between the implementation team and the project stakeholders. They regularly communicate with stakeholders, gathering their feedback and informing them about the project's progress. The absence of a designated product owner in a project leads to communication and organizational chaos. That's why appointing such a person is very important for the overall success of the implementation. Another significant mistake in implementation is the lack of an appointed, engaged implementation team. Even the very best and most empowered product owner cannot effectively implement a PIM system entirely on their own. A truly committed implementation team is absolutely key, often made up of dedicated employees who will ultimately become the primary beneficiaries of the new PIM system. The ideal team is one that actively gets involved in defining clear expectations for the system. They will independently look up what a PIM system is on the internet, see how it works from the inside, and explore which functionalities might potentially be useful. They will consider and collectively determine what data will be needed in the PIM system. They will actively try to reorganize product data to better match customer expectations and needs. This is a dedicated team that will actively participate in important meetings, comprehensive tests, and will always be open to beneficial change. The last point is especially important because it's crucial to remember that implementing a PIM system involves changes in processes, ways of working, and moving away from routines established over the years. A team that truly understands the proper system design and diligently learning how to effectively use it will certainly bring many significant benefits in the long run is indeed the key to success. Another mistake is trying to implement the PIM system on your own through trial and error. We're not ruling out the possibility that you might successfully implement a PIM system on your own, but in our experience, this approach unfortunately carries significant risks that can lead to many problems in the long run. Among other things, this can mean a time-consuming and difficult implementation, employees becoming discouraged from using the system, integration challenges, or even the need to remodel your data when expanding your product portfolio. If you don't have experience with PIM system implementations, you probably don't fully understand the system inside out or the possibilities it offers. Trying to create a data model in a PIM system on your own often leads to mistakes that may require a major system overhaul or even a complete re-implementation to fix in the future. What seems like an initial budget saving ends up doubling your costs in the long run. So, if you avoid the mistake I just mentioned, trying to implement the system on your own, you might still fall into another trap, choosing the wrong implementation partner. Implementing a PIM system is not just about introducing new technology and training employees. It's also about introducing a new way of working and new processes. It's important to carry out the project in cooperation with an experienced implementation partner who knows the various pitfalls of implementation and will be able to advise you on how to best design the data in the PIM or how to integrate the PIM with other systems. Before implementation, workshops, meetings, and a pre-implementation analysis are often conducted. These meetings allow you to get to know the partner's team, find a common language, and see if the partner understands the needs of the organization. The analysis stage allows us to verify whether we want to carry out the implementation together, especially since this is often a project lasting several months, which is then continued as part of development and maintenance. If you're looking for a partner, we naturally recommend our Macopedia team. We would be happy to arrange a meeting. Another pitfall you might fall into during implementation is poor modeling of product data. It may turn out that there was a misunderstanding between you and the implementation partner, who might have had little experience. Or you tried to meticulously create the data model yourself, and after its implementation, it turned out that the e-commerce system simply couldn't effectively read the data from the PIM. Maybe you wanted to strategically scale to new markets, but it turned out that the text attributes were added in a way that didn't allow for straightforward translations into additional languages. You might also have been tempted to implement a very universal and comprehensive model that would address all hypothetical challenges. And it turned out that 70% of the product card consists of not applicable values, which is a highly undesirable situation. That's why I want to emphasize once again that the crucial pre-implementation phase and the initial stage of implementation, where we meticulously analyze, model the data, and offer comprehensive support to the client as an implementation partner, are absolutely crucial for the system's future years of operation and for avoiding the significant mistake of a poor data model, the consequences of which you might indeed feel in the future. Another common mistake, somewhat closely related to the previous example, is trying to directly mirror the current, existing data structure within the system. What I truly mean is a situation where the primary approach is, let's initially reflect the current product card exactly as it is in the system, and then we'll clean things up and refine them later. We strongly do not recommend this particular approach. Implementing a product information management (PIM) system is precisely the opportune time to thoroughly analyze and thoughtfully ask yourself, is the current product description that I provide to my valuable customers truly adequate and comprehensive? Could I describe my product better? Do I have the right filters on my website that make it easier to search for products? Does the search engine work properly? We practice the approach. Let's at least do some minimal tidying up first. Let's think about how to structure products, families, and categories in the PIM, and then model the data in a system and test the final layout. Putting off organizing things until later often ends up with the original setup staying in place for many years, or any attempt to make changes gets abandoned, for example, because it turns out that other systems using the data have already adapted to it, and changing something in the PIM would force changes in every system that draws data from the PIM, which would generate additional costs. So it's worth first organizing the data correctly, then integrating the PIM system with others, and enjoying valuable data modeled according to best practices. Another mistake is being overly optimistic when estimating the time needed to prepare product data for the initial loading into the PIM system. Once you create the data framework in PIM, it will already have a structure for your products. However, at the start, there won't be any technical data, specifications, or product photos in the PIM. To accurately reflect your current and comprehensive product portfolio, and possibly also a detailed archive of products from the past few years, you will certainly need proper preparation and meticulous planning to effectively add all product data into the system. Data migration can be carried out in several ways. You can extract some data from your current systems that store product information, for example from System R. You can also import data from a flat file, attempt a semi-automated import of data and photos and assign them to the appropriate products, or, as a last resort, manually add the data to the system. There are various methods. Of course, you can mix them, but as implementation experience shows, the time-consuming nature of the stage, the effort to gather data scattered throughout the organization and properly organize it before import, is a major challenge for the team. Often, delays in going live with the system and extensions to the implementation schedule are frequently caused by too few people being involved in the initial population of the PIM system with data, or by too little time originally allocated for this important stage of the project in the schedule. Therefore, we recommend starting the preparation and collection of product data right from the very beginning of the project, so that you are ready to import the data as soon as a place for it is created in the PIM system. The next mistake on our list is trying to meet all user requirements and insisting that these requirements be fulfilled already at the MVP stage. Gathering all ideas and expectations regarding the PIM system is a very important and necessary part of the implementation. However, if you truly care about a quick go-live and genuinely want to start reaping the significant benefits of comprehensive data centralization within the PIM system, it's certainly worth trying to prioritize specific functionalities and strategically spread out the addition of further integrations or modules to the system over an extended period of time. Trying to do absolutely everything at once can often end in complete failure, significant difficulties with thorough testing, and ultimately lead to considerable frustration among users who simply won't feel that any particular part of the system is truly working well. Therefore, try to carefully analyze what you are currently missing the most. If, for example, what you lack is a single reliable source for product documentation, try adding documents to the system relatively early so that users can see the benefits of implementing the system as soon as possible. I promise you won't regret it. Another trap you might fall into during implementation is trying to turn the PIM system into a tool that solves every problem in the organization. For example, right now we don't have a place to calculate prices and discounts. Let's add such a function to the PIM, or if we don't currently have a sales reporting tool, let's expand such a module in the PIM. This is a big mistake you can make by believing that since PIM is the source of product data, it can store all kinds of data and you can customize it however you want. PIM manages product specifications perfectly and supports processes like adding new products and preparing translations. It also has many other functionalities. However, it is not a place where you can just dump all the data you couldn't fit into other systems. It's worth consulting with specialists about using the PIM system for a specific purpose. There are many tools on the market dedicated to handling data requirements. There might be another program that can support the work in your organization. In that case, there would be no need to invest in expanding and customizing PIM, which could turn out to be more expensive than using an out-of-the-box solution. An overly customized system leads to difficulties with its further maintenance and development. Therefore, it's worth carefully considering the addition of non-standard elements to the PIM system. That's all for today. I hope that the examples of situations and potential implementation pitfalls I've mentioned will help you avoid repeating these mistakes, and that thanks to today's episode, you'll be better prepared to implement a PIM system. We encourage you to ask questions in the comments or contact us through our website or LinkedIn. We'll be happy to support you with your implementation. See you in the next episode.